All right, let's jump right in. At first glance, you couldn't find two ideas that seem more like polar opposites. You've got Marxism, which is all about collective revolution, and then you've got transhumanism, the movement to use technology to upgrade the individual. But what if they're not opposites at all? What if there's a powerful argument that they're actually two sides of the very same revolutionary coin?
I mean, the conflict seems so obvious, right? When you think transhumanism, you're thinking Silicon Valley, tech billionaires enhancing the self. It's about the future of capital. But when you think Marxism, you're thinking class struggle, the collective, the overthrow of capital. They're pulling in completely different directions. So how on earth could you even begin to connect them?
Well, that's exactly where things get really interesting. Our source material for this explainer from scholar Santiago Javier Armesilla Conde poses that very question. The argument is that behind this apparent clash, there's a deep and frankly surprising historical connection. It basically suggests that maybe, just maybe, we've been looking at both of these movements in the wrong way. To really see that connection, we have to first kind of peel back the layers on what we think transhumanism is. Because it turns out it's not just some newfangled idea that popped up with the internet.
See, the source material argues that the real core of transhumanism is way broader than just gadgets and tech. It's defined as a philosophical, cultural, and political movement that wants to radically transform, well, everything, both the human being and society itself, and that's the crucial part. This isn't just about personal upgrades, it's about changing the entire human condition.
And it turns out this dream of transcending our limits is ancient. You can find traces of this desire for human perfection way back in Enlightenment philosophy, in Christian theology, and most importantly for this discussion, in early left-wing thought. You even had these incredible philosophical movements like Russian cosmism envisioning these wild futures for humanity long before anyone had a microchip.
Okay, so let's flip the coin. We've established that transhumanist ideas have this deep revolutionary history. So what about Marxism? Does it have a similar kind of seed of human transformation buried inside it?
And this is the central claim right here. The author states pretty directly that if you actually dig into the foundational texts of Marxism, you'll find ideas that are, for all practical purposes, proto-transhumanist. They were dreaming of a completely transformed humanity way before anyone was using that term.
The key concept to understand is the new man. In Marxist theory, the whole point of the revolution wasn't just to change the economy. It was to create a totally new type of human being, someone who is finally free from the alienation and constraints of capitalist society. We're not just talking about someone with a better attitude. We're talking about a fundamentally different, almost post-human person, shaped by a totally new world.
A direct quote from the source really drives this home. The argument isn't just that there are some passing similarities. It's that the entire foundation of Marxism, this goal of creating a new man in a new society, is, in its essence, a transhumanist project. That's a huge statement. Okay, so if both movements share this grand ambition to transform humanity, why do they seem like they're on opposite teams today? This question brings us to the author's sharp critique of the transhumanism we see all around us.
The main problem, our source argues, is that modern transhumanism has been stripped of that big, society-changing vision. It's been co-opted. It's now seen almost entirely through this individualistic, pro-capitalist lens. It's become less about building a better world for all of us and more about me getting a personal biological upgrade.
In fact, the author coins a specific term for this phenomenon: Transcapitalism. It describes a kind of transhumanism that doesn't challenge the capitalist system, but actually serves it. It offers tech solutions that just reinforce the way things are instead of trying to imagine something new. So this is where you can see the two paths really fork. On one side, you have transcapitalism. It's all about the individual. It's pro-capitalist, and it props up the existing system. On the other side, you have this proposed Marxist transhumanism, which is all about the collective, it's revolutionary, and its goal is to build an entirely new kind of society.
So, after laying out this powerful critique of the present, the author proposes a path for the future. How do we get from our current transcapitalism to a revitalized collective vision of what humanity could be? The logic here is actually pretty insightful. It's that the failures and the limitations of today's transhumanism, the fact that it can't solve our big collective problems, the way it creates new forms of inequalities, That very brokenness actually opens the door for real alternative. Its contradictions create the demand for a new way of thinking.
And the source lays out a clear three-step plan to get there. First, you have to reclaim that hidden history we talked about. Second, you relentlessly critique the limits of what transcapitalism can offer. And third, from that foundation, you can start to build a new, collective vision for the future. A true Marxist transhumanism. And the ultimate point here is that this isn't just some abstract academic debate. The author argues that by engaging directly with technology, this synthesis could revitalize Marxist ideas for the 21st century. It would finally reconnect the incredible promise of technology with the goal of social and political revolution.
So all of this leaves us with a massive question, doesn't it? We are absolutely at a point where technology is starting to rewrite the rules of what it means to be human. That's a given. The real question, the one our source material puts front and center, is which ideas are going to guide that evolution. Will it be a vision focused on individual gain or one focused on the collective? Because the answer to that is going to define our future.